The Mirror's Curse. In a quiet, unassuming town, there was a small antique shop run by an elderly woman named Mrs. Covington. The shop was a labyrinth of forgotten treasures, dusty chandeliers, faded paintings, and relics from eras long past. But one item always stood out: a large, ornate mirror. Its blackened silver frame was intricately carved with serpents and faces frozen in silent screams. The locals called it the Devil's Eye and claimed it brought ruin to anyone who owned it. Mrs. Covington brushed off these rumors, but she rarely tried to sell the mirror. "Some things choose their owners," she would mutter cryptically when asked about it. One stormy afternoon, Clara, a struggling artist, wandered into the shop. Her eyes were drawn immediately to the mirror. It felt alive, its surface shimmering faintly despite the dim lighting. Something about it called to her, a mixture of beauty and danger that sparked her curiosity. "Be careful with that one," Mrs. Covington said, her voice unusually grave. "It's not for the faint of heart." Ignoring the warning, Clara purchased the mirror, thinking it might be the centerpiece of her new art collection. A mirror with secrets. Clara hung the mirror in her studio where it loomed over her workspace. At first, it inspired her. She painted with a fervor she hadn't felt in years, producing works more vibrant and haunting than ever before. But soon the mirror began to show its true nature. It started with small oddities, her reflection lingering a second too long, shadows that moved without explanation. Then came the whispers. At night, as Clara lay in bed, she heard faint voices calling her name. They promised greatness, wealth, and eternal recognition if she gave herself to the mirror. Desperate to escape her financial struggles, Clara rationalized the strangeness. When the whispers grew louder, she convinced herself they were figments of her overworked imagination. But one evening, as she painted, her reflection in the mirror turned toward her. Clara froze. Her own image, smiling wickedly, spoke. "You could be so much more. All you have to do is trust me." A devil's bargain. Terrified but tempted, Clara hesitated. The reflection continued, its voice smooth and persuasive. "Imagine a world where your art is celebrated, where you never have to beg for scraps again. I can give you everything you've ever wanted." With trembling hands, Clara whispered, "What do you want in return?" "Your loyalty," the reflection replied. Clara agreed, and the next morning everything changed. Her paintings, once dismissed, were now hailed as masterpieces. Buyers flocked to her studio, offering fortunes. She was invited to galleries, her name becoming synonymous with artistic genius. But success came at a price. Clara's nights were plagued with nightmares of shadowy figures and distant screams. Her reflection grew darker, its eyes sunken and malevolent. Worse, her once lifelike paintings began to shift. Faces in her portraits moved, their eyes following her around the room. The mirror's grip. Clara tried to avoid the mirror, but it was impossible. Its whispers grew more insistent, demanding sacrifices she didn't fully understand. When she refused, her luck began to change. Paintings she had sold returned to her, the buyers claiming they felt cursed. Her once bustling studio became eerily quiet, her patrons avoiding her calls. Determined to rid herself of the mirror, Clara smashed it with a hammer. The shards scattered across the floor, but when she turned to leave, the mirror was whole again, hanging in its usual place. Its surface shimmered mockingly. She sought help, turning to psychics and priests. Each one left her home pale and shaken, muttering about something ancient and unholy. One psychic warned her, "This mirror doesn't just reflect, it absorbs." The reflection's rebellion. One stormy night, the whispers turned into screams. Clara's reflection stepped out of the mirror, its form distorted and monstrous. "You broke your promise," it hissed, its voice like nails on glass. The reflection chased her through the house, its presence warping reality. Walls stretched and groaned, the air thick with shadows. Clara fled to her studio, hoping to hide, but the reflection was already there, waiting. "Give me one last gift," it demanded, "your soul." Clara refused, throwing paint and canvases at the figure. But the studio transformed around her, the mirror multiplying until every surface reflected her terror. She was surrounded by versions of herself, all twisted and broken, laughing cruelly. The final sacrifice. With no escape, Clara made a desperate choice. She set fire to the studio, hoping to destroy the mirror once and for all. The flames consumed the room, but as the fire raged, the mirror's voice echoed, "You can't destroy me. I am eternal." When the firefighters arrived, they found no trace of Clara, only the unscathed mirror, lying in the ashes. The cycle company.